What's going on, guys? It's been a long time since I've done one of these. Hope everyone had a great Christmas, holiday. We're able to spend time with family. I had a great time, as you guys know. I went to New Mexico, so things are now finally settling back in. And really, right, I don't really like to trade holidays, mainly due to the fact that there's low volume, low liquidity available in the market. So things will tend to not work properly, right? Retests, breakdowns, breakouts, breakout pullbacks, things like that, and they just won't make sense, right? And then typically, right, end of year, we know that there is some tax harvesting that does happen, so we typically see some sell-offs on names that are overextended. But for the most part, right, a lot of things are just low volume and don't make sense, right? And that's why I actually was deciding to go long on NVDA beginning of the week, or not the beginning of the week, I'm sorry. Beginning of the week was actually excellent. Right, we landed in New Mexico on the 20th. I took some trades. I took KRE, took a couple names. Ended up actually making about like 12 to 14,000 in my first 2 days there. Now, issue is as the week progressed, people obviously I wasn't alerting as much. People started to like question why I wasn't alerting, started to cancel, and that's just going to put some pressure on me to like put alerts out. So I ended up looking at NVIDIA. I think it was on this day here, Wednesday or Thursday. Ended up swinging, one side of the trade, which was I think this day here, right? I think I ended up taking it on Tuesday, going into Wednesday, or Wednesday going into Thursday, and that actually ended up doing well. I made like 1,400 bucks on like a small gap up, but the issue was that I ended up putting too much, pressure on trying to force this up to 500. Now the reason why, this obviously looked like a bear flag initially, off this engulfing slash outside bar here, right? Wednesday the 20th. Reason I was long on this is I kind of understood the concept that things will push up, and it may seem, not erratic, but it just seems like it's happening on low volume. People will try to fade it, and they don't understand why, right? And I just decided to kind of go with the grain on that. And just following that, right, this huge bar here actually led into a big, big dark pool level at 481.20. A lot of buyers were sitting there, and once I saw this Wednesday bar kind of stop here, I wanted to see how this would progress. And obviously going into Thursday, this gapped up just a little bit above the close here, right? And it just kind of slowly made its way up, right? And a lot of people were fading this thinking it was a bear flag, but I did note, let's go to the hourly really quickly and turn off extended hours, that there was an imbalance here, and it actually stemmed from right here, right? So 496 or whatever. I think this is actually 563. Sorry, it's up in the upper right, and I can't really tell. I think it's 563. Either way, right, there was an imbalance here that I was figuring would be swept right in this spot here. Let's go ahead and make this black. Like that little zone right there, I was expecting that to get swept, right? Kind of just pull up into this imbalance, fill, and then maybe sell off from there. But that's why I was so adamant on that 500 spot. As you guys know, though, right, 500 in general is going to be a big psych level, so I did have this just kind of marked out at 499.99, which is funny that it ended up being right at the level it rejected today. But I ended up going long. I think, like I said, down here we got the gap up the following morning, and then I tried to retrade this spot, and this was kind of the demise, not of my account. I ended up doing well today, as you guys saw. And what ended up happening is I got caught here, and really they just chopped premiums, and call side contracts, put side contracts didn't move at all. And then it got another gap up, which was yesterday on Thursday. Same thing happened, guys. It did gap up, but it didn't really, make up for all the lost time that occurred on Tuesday slash Wednesday. 2 days in a row of just chopping sideways isn't going to do anything, right? Especially considering we don't have a Monday, right? The week's already short, volume's low. So it's going to take a big move to really reinvigorate those contracts. Didn't help. Thursday, same exact thing, right? It kind of pushed up to this like 498 spot. I do think the contracts that I was in did go green. They went from 241 to I believe 2.6, maybe a little bit higher in the 2.6 spectrum. But you guys know me. Like that's not a big win. That's not why I wanted to trade that name. I had like 75 contracts or something like that. So I ended up taking a rather big loss. I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty open with that. These ended up going, like I said, the win 20%, or I think it was like 10%. It was nothing worth trimming, but the loss ended up being well more, or way beyond what I wanted and was comfortable with. I ended up losing about, I think it was like 7 to 10,000. I want to say it was like 8, which isn't good, right? You don't want to lose that much in a trade at any given time. But I was expecting a big pop. I was expecting, a volatile move to get to this fill up here, right? Just to kind of rebalance the chart and maybe sell from there. And that didn't happen, guys. I was actually the whole week I was planning to go long into a short. But yeah, I ended up taking the loss on this day here as it made its way back down to 494. As you guys can tell, if I just extend this line out, there was a reason I was so big on 494. I mean, this is 20 cents off, but you guys can see there every time it, deviated too far away, it got back above, right, or back to it. It sold down, or it got back up to it. It just compressed. I mean, look at the hourly candles here, guys. Like, it just really compressed at this 494. There was a big buyer there. I don't know why they were trying to hold this, but 494 ended up being the target today for this trade. And when I got in today, right, I want you guys to know that when the morning opened, okay, we ended up getting a slight gap up, which is always a little bit, I don't want to say concerning, but I always kind of look to fade that initial gap up, especially for in supply or known resistance. Right, we opened, remember purple line is always going to be my previous day high. So previous day high right here, right? You guys can see that hopefully. Now let's go ahead and go back to regular trading hours. We ended up getting a 5-minute open that really just pushed up into 499, right? That 500 psych level, also that resistance right here. And it ended up kind of closing back under, which gave me the vibe that they were trying to give us essentially a silver bullet, right? They're trying to get people to buy the breakout leading into that 500 spot. And really, I ended up starting my short right around here. But contracts were not moving, guys. This is where I kind of got a little panicky, as you guys saw in the chat, mainly because I oversized in this position again. I had confidence in the position, but I was worried we'd get caught in another day like this, right, where we just get chopped around. It's the last day of the year. People are expecting a move, and that's what my worry was. But we ended up getting here, and as you guys saw, right, I had all my stuff kind of labeled. We were looking for this to trade down back into 494, right? Back into like the midpoint of this entire consolidated area. That big bidder was down here. I was assuming they were going to bid the market again and try to get fills to move it back up. That's why I chose the 495 strike, just to get these in the money. But we ended up seeing a really, really beautiful, essentially it ended up being a silver bullet, right? And you guys can see it here on the hourly very nicely, where we ended up sweeping the previous day high, right? Forget my entry. We'll just kind of put this here. Ended up sweeping the previous day high within that 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Range, right? And then ended up kind of closing under, and then we were looking for an initial low day break just to kind of, obviously give us confirmation to stay in the trade, but also, we wanted to see volume ramp up underneath that spot. That was huge for the trade. That was the lower low I was talking about. We wanted to see volume really ramp up. Now, I was definitely concerned a few times kind of looking at the chart just because volume wasn't there when we needed it to. You guys can see, right, this was the initial low that I was talking about. And you guys can see it broke down, bounced, created that low to start, pushed up. And these are all lower highs, right? So we'll make this red really quickly so you guys can kind of follow along with the colors, right? This is the high, lower high, right? And then we end up getting a subsequent lower high, right? This is a 1-minute chart, but I'm just trying to, have you guys visualize what this is. And then it breaks down, right? We end up kind of pushing back up. What do we get again? Another lower high, and this is all micro, but we end up finally breaking down, and we made that lower low. And this is where it really kind of comes down to, and this is why I was on the 1-minute chart, was you want to see a nice retest of this with low volume, no real bar that threatens the break above and base again to get back into this range. We never really got that. We got some, wicks that broke above, but it closed under, right? Wick that broke above, closed under. And then really, you guys can see my chart here. As it broke and made a new low, each time I was just marking the old low, and it was so crazy. We retested it perfectly every time, right? We had a break under, we retested here. We broke under, never got the retest there, and that's when we just straight flushed to 494. Also, I want to note something on this trade. We had a dark pool print here, very obvious one. This wasn't why I was trying to trade this though, but very obvious dark pool print here. At 495.32. So I was kind of using this as a target as well for the trade, so we can just get rid of that. And it lined up pretty nicely with this like 494 to 495 spot, right? I was just looking to take profits right around here, right? That's kind of what my target was for the trade. And of course, we ended up getting that. And that was pretty much the trade, guys. Very, very beautiful sell side structure. This is something that I talk about quite a bit, and kind of just keeping in mind is the gap ups, right, over a consolidated zone with a very, very obvious liquidity spot, right? This is very, very obvious. I was looking for either a rejection off of this or some kind of sweep off of this. And then a big reason to remember, I want to make sure I include this. The reason I was looking, and I said this at the beginning of the video, I'm pretty sure, the reason I was looking to, take this long was because, it irrationally moved up on low volume. A lot of people probably got caught thinking this is a flag, and without spotting that hourly imbalance, right, that I mentioned up here. But, if we just look at this, guys, what do you think it's going to do, right? It's going to make its way up to the top. We were looking for the sweep or rejection right there, and then it's going to trade back down. This entire spot is all very, very low volume. This is forced up by algorithms, and likely once it hits that spot, this will start to act like a bear flag, right? This is obviously not a bear flag. It retraced over the 0.5, but we can expect this to trade back down and sweep out this buy side liquidity, right, where this big move started. Maybe trade down to the the low at 481, but right, that's what I was looking to do. Trade this long, right, irrationally, if you will, because of the volume. Just kind of siding with big money, forcing this up. Once it got up to this spot, right, just looking for some kind of sweep, some kind of rejection. Of course, like I said, we got the hourly silver bullet here, right? I was looking at the 15.5 hourly, and then we ended up getting the sweep above. And then from there, it's just about trusting the trade. And this sold off beautifully. Admittedly, I took these off a little bit more than I would have liked. I had 4 or 3 runners. I probably should have held these for a much bigger move. But honestly, it's all good, right? I mean, 0.86 to I think I got like 145 for my fills. Was fantastic. These did go to 4.9, so that would have been like a 40 grand trade. But it's not about that, right? The day before, like I said, I lost like 7 to like 10K. Today I made 5 of it back. It's not about getting all of it back at once and oversizing and really forcing your hand to like targets. You guys will always hear me say, with certain charts, you don't want to take one range, or try to get like 2 ranges in one day, right? This was fine with me, right? We end up getting a sweep up here. We take it to the, the daily bar low right around here. That's fine. Right now, this is a new range here. If we break under this daily low, then we can start to talk about this range down here, right? Where we can sweep that buy side liquidity off of this like 490 spot, right? So I don't need to take out 2 ranges in one day, especially on a Friday, especially on low volume coming off, the holidays. It's the last day of the year. You got to kind of keep your expectations tapered, and that's how you survive, right? So like I said, made about like 5,000 today. I'll still, next week, I'll chisel away and try to get that extra 3-4K back. I have all week. If not, I have 2 weeks left. So there's no real pressure on these things, right? And hopefully we get some better setups, because this week was it was awful. It was not fun to trade. I was very vocal about that. A lot of the charts it was the same thing we saw in the video, just very, very hard grind up. Risk reward is not worth it to go long, but you also don't want to go short because things aren't moving. And we caught a very good trade today. So just wanted to go over that. Remember, just to reiterate, make sure you guys are watching, the imbalances in the chart, understanding where, the consolidation is occurring at. If you get any gap aboves or gaps below, through those consolidated zones, and then you're going into something like this, guys, where it's a very, very obvious liquidity grab, with the fill slightly above. Just kind of keep an eye on it. And then on top of that, right, making sure we're noting the daily volume, which was obviously very, very low. It was a forced grind up. And then this was a silver bullet trade. I mean, really, that was kind of what gave me the confirmation, understanding they're going to bait the previous day high, going into this spot up here. And then from there, like I said, I did go onto a kind of a micro chart and just kind of watch the lower highs subsequently take place. And then we finally got our low break, and then you guys can see this is an untouched chart. I really just kind of, every new low, I marked it, waited for the retest, broke through the new low, right, marked it, didn't get a retest. We got the heavy flush down into target. I take everything off on the trade. I probably, like I said, I should have left a couple runners, but that was it. Hope you guys enjoyed. This was a good one. I mean, I walked through the loss already as well. Honestly, I got chopped up. Had I held those contracts, I think I would have came back to break even on this gap up. But, I don't think that would have been worth it. This was a very stressful trade to be in. But If I can give you guys any words of advice, just don't trade the holidays. Maybe keep some swings on hand. But this was difficult for me just because I felt like I had to alert some trades. I ended up putting myself in, and I wouldn't say today was a bad position, but I definitely put myself in a bad position yesterday, forcing this trade here, right? Just trying to get an alert off. I thought I saw something, and it just took too long to play out. Really put me in a big hole. And this day, if anything, I probably should have just traded today and I would have been fine. But yeah, that's going to be all for the trade recap. Hope you guys enjoy. You guys will see this setup time after time after time. It's just about having the repetition to be able to see this in real time, not panic. I think on this trade too, I was just trading the chart. I took my entry somewhere around here on the retest, and then obviously when it made a new low or got close to the low, I was still red on the trade, and that could really freak some people out. Really, I was just trading the chart. I was just trading, what I saw in front of me and risking the high up here. And I think, had I been trading my P&L percent or my P&L, I think I was down like $3,000, $4,000. I was down about like 37 to 40% at the most, but I wasn't paying attention to that, right? I knew I was taking a very, very aggressive 0DT trade, and I was just trading the chart. So, if I can help you guys with anything, it's just trading the chart, right? Trusting your levels. And that's why it's so important to really measure your risk reward and really kind of understand, whether the chart's in a buy side kind of model or sell side model. This was very obvious, in my opinion, from the morning start. So that'll be all, guys. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. We have Monday off, and then we're going to be right back to it. We're going to be right back to live trading. We're going to be back to pretty much the consistent schedule I've had. Appreciate you guys being patient during the holidays. I'm not going to apologize for taking the holidays primarily off. I will apologize for kind of forcing things. But yeah, this is every year. If you guys are in here, this is how it's going to be. Holidays are kind of dead. There's a reason I don't like to trade it. So that's all, guys. Take care.